Good evening, everybody. It is the 26th of March. My name is Ian, and this is Mountain Moose Reviews. Doing a slightly different video today because I wanted to get out the channel and actually, instead of doing boxing reviews and all the rest of that stuff, which is cool, ooh, great, Gucci gadgets, I want to actually put forth practical information, practical reviews that I think might actually help people, whether or not you're the most experienced person in the field or you're a complete novice. I want this information to be something that you can then personally grow and adapt to. So I decided to do a video that I'm going to call the 5 things you should have prepped for during the Corona-apocalypse. So as you all know, we are currently in the midst of the COVID-19, the Wuhan flu, the Kung flu, however you want to call it, the virus that originated out of Wuhan, China, that is currently gripping the world with fear and creating mass hysteria and buying panic filled with toilet paper and hand sanitizer. I don't know why. That's because people are dumb. But you can be smarter if you start taking a day-to-day approach in terms of what everybody now is calling hoarding, but was traditionally called prepping. So what's the difference between prepping and survivalists? Prepping is somebody who prepositions or prepares all of their supplies and knowledge beforehand. Survivalist is somebody who acquires all the knowledge to live off of what they have at hand. So I'm going to kind of go through the 5 things or 5 areas that I would focus on personally for my house, and then kind of discuss some alternatives to things that you might be looking at. So first off, I want to get this out of the way. I don't think that the coronavirus is going to last. This is a personal belief. I am not a medically trained professional, so take it for exactly what it's worth. But I'm in my mid-30s. This is approximately all the different crap I have survived through. And yes, I did have to make a list. First I had on the list was the mad cow disease. I've survived through SARS, Ebola, Zika virus, the bird flu, the swine flu, and that's just the viral ones that happen to come here and make the news, let alone all the other fantastic series of just normal bouts of flu that we get every year, and not to mention other small ones in the United States, but then all the other ones that are just absolutely everywhere. Let's also not forget the fun one, the hand, foot, and mouth. I don't even know why that became a thing, but it did. So that's the problem, is that we have all these different viruses, but that's not all. We've also survived, if you're an 80s kid like me, we've survived the 9/11 terror attacks, Y2K, the Mayan apocalypse, Nostradamus's 1999 prediction, the 2020 or the year 2000 planetary alignment where we're all supposed to get zapped into a black hole or some such nonsense. We've survived man buns and skinny jeans. We've survived tornadoes, earthquakes, blizzards, the 2008 housing crisis. We've survived boy bands. We've survived Miley Cyrus. We've survived 20 years of the war on terror, and by God, we just barely survived the war on Tide Pods. So why am I talking all this? All of our grandparents, grandparents, and their grandparents, all the way back to whatever origin that you prescribe to, have all survived through massive bouts of pandemic, terror, war, feast, famine, drought, all these different things. We will get through this. It will be different afterwards. I can't tell you how, but there's a few things that you can get both now, potentially, that are in stores, or things that you can look at once things start to go back to normal that are going to help you in the future. Little caveat to this, I want to make sure people are tracking that this is assuming that you have shelter, because we've all been ordered to shelter in place or to stay indoors. So I'm hoping this is assuming that you have shelter and that you have a form of heat or cold source. So that if you're in the hot areas, that you have a source of air conditioning or some type of temperature control. If you're in the cold areas, you have heat. So with that being said, here are my top 5 things that you should have had for the Corona-apocalypse, and I'll go down them right now. So the first one I have on my list is food. It's not really a necessity, because we all know the rules of 3 state that I can go without 3 weeks without food. But it's a comfort thing, and if you're stress eating like a lot of people are now, you're realizing how much of a role food plays in your life. If you've ever tried to complete a task on a hungry stomach, you'll understand why. Famous Army acronyms or military axioms, was you win a war by feeding your army. So it just kind of places that emphasis. At current time, stores are real spotty with what they have on the shelves. I understand this, and I am not encouraging people to go out and hoard and buy crap they don't need. Buy food that you need to get through this, but after we get past this, once food becomes back on the shelves and people quit panic buying, these are some things that I would recommend to stock up on. The first thing you got to look at is that we're looking for a long-term haul. Some people call this the deep larder, or something where you can have it in there for a while. A lot of people prescribe to canning or other types of food preservation. That would go towards that. And it varies depending on who you listen to. Some folks say it's 6 weeks. Some people say it's 2 months. The Mormons believe it could be longer. I believe it's 7 years. So it really depends on who you want to prescribe to. I personally look for stuff that I can get me through between hunting seasons, because I tend to fill up most of my freezer with wild game. So I try and look for things that if hunting is scarce, I still have the sustenance to continue life as I know it. Going down the list, start small. It doesn't have to be you have to spend $3 million on brand new stuff or the most awesome freeze dried and have everything done. If you have the money to do it, sure, cool, awesome, do it. But you want to kind of start slow. It starts with grabbing a couple extra cans of a vegetable that you like, or fruit and veg that you like. It's grabbing a couple extra boxes of pasta, rice, not much nutritional value in ramen noodles, but if it's something that you enjoy, that's fine. But grabbing one or two of these things prior to actually having them run out on the shelves will go to help give you that peace of mind so you don't have to go out in the shelves when the shelves are bare. The other thing I'd look at too, and this is just a personal thing for me, is look at dried goods, or like long-term dried goods. So this one right here is from Patriot Pantry. It's long-term food storage. So the idea behind a lot of these companies now, be it My Patriot Supply, Wise Foods, Mountain House, or many, many, many others, even MREs, is that you have a sustainable food source that can be kept and is still edible and nutritious multiple years later. So it's kind of your ultimate insurance plan. Start small. They have starter packages for like $100 for 2 weeks of food for 4 people. Now, granted, that was pre-craziness. I don't know what's going to happen now, but it's just something that I would look at for you and your family as we go forward. One of the big things that I want to make sure I kind of talk about too is get stuff you'll actually eat. There's nothing worse than being that person who's sitting on a crap ton of food and starving to death because the only thing you like is cheese doodles. If cheese doodles is what you need to eat, then buy boxes of cheese doodles. I may or may not know people who live exclusively off of fast food. They're sitting on months and months worth of meat, and they'll probably starve to death because of it. Just buy what you need, buy what you'll actually eat and what your family will eat. When you're hungry enough, you'll eat it, but it goes down a lot better if you actually enjoy the food. And then the last part of it too is you can't become a hunter overnight. So a lot of people's first inclination is, I'm going to go to the heartland. I'm going to go to the farming areas, the rural areas, or to the woods, and I'm going to go hunt. If you haven't hunted before, now is not a good time to learn when you're in a survival situation. Again, I don't think we're in that situation, but this would not be the opportune time to go, you know what, I'm going to go start hunting elk. Probably a bad idea. Not to mention, if you look at the statistics for most states, it's usually about a 10% success rate for every tag sold. So if a state of Colorado wants to kill off 1,000 elk, they'll issue out multitudes more than they think will actually get culled during the season. So that's point one. And point two of that, it's illegal right now in most states to hunt the majority of food. If you're lucky to be enough to be in the southern parts of the United States that are currently being ravaged by a bunch of wild hogs, freezers open, baby. That's some bacon and pork bellies. Are they the best tasting? Depends on how big of the hog. But if it's not hog hunting until turkey hunting comes along and then the spring fishing comes along, it's technically illegal. And then the third part of that is you got to remember, if every Tom, Dick, and Harry is coming out with the idea of, hey, I'm going to go become the next, Jed Johnson, or I'm going to become the next Jim Bridger, and I'm going to, mountain, yeah, guess what? If there's 3,000 other cheese dicks in the woods all hunting the same goddamn deer, only one of you is going to get that deer. And if you aren't the most experienced one out there because you just decided to pick it up, you're probably going hungry and you're burning a ton of calories trying to get something. So that just kind of goes into a little bit for the food aspect. Next we're going to talk about is my number 2, which is water. I currently live in the desert. I'm in the middle of the Mojave. So because of that, Even before the flu, water is a major issue. If you don't have a constant source of clean water to drink from, it becomes an issue. Now, currently, the Wuhan virus is not airborne. Quit buying all the waterborne. Not waterborne. Quit buying all the goddamn water bottles. Okay? You're making an ass of yourself. And you're creating an unnecessary fluctuation. Okay? Buy what you need to get you through. And then when you think longer term, start thinking, how do I get past it? It is never a bad idea to start thinking about purifying water. It's never a bad idea to think about acquiring more water at the house. But how many of the little 20-ounce water bottles can you physically carry if you needed to leave? Most would say probably not very many. So buying 16 48 packs of 37 million ounces apiece is not going to do you that much good. You're going to have to leave it by. But it's not just a survival or a virus situation that you have to worry about. Look at the people in Flint, Michigan who can't drink their water. There's plenty of cities who have gone through flooding during hurricanes, tornadoes, where their water is either broken or it's no longer usable, it's no longer potable. So one of those things that is really important to focus on, because again, if we talk about the rules of 3, so I'm going to go through it real quick. It's 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. You get where I'm going. So the important thing is getting that potable water. Now, there's 2 different styles you can go with this. One is portable, the other one is stationary. Portable stuff you can use. There are a multitude of different things. There's everything from iodine tablets. You can use bleach as long as it's unscented, and you use it at, I think it's anywhere between 6 to 8 drops per gallon of water. Don't quote me on it. Do your research. Again, I'm not a medical professional. Solar power can kill off a lot of those bugs. They've got the SteriPens where you can put them inside of a Nalgene bottle and the UV light kills off a good majority of them. You can use 2-liter coffee filters. If you want to try something fun during this shut-in, get a couple of your 2-liter Coke bottles and learn how to filter out dirty water and have it process through. It's a really fun process to learn how to do, and the cool part is it's stuff you're already using. It's gravel, sand, and it's coffee filters. And maybe some towels as well. Stuff that's already available. You can then purchase ones that you want, such as the Katadyn water pumps, the Life straw, the Sawyer minis, and they're everywhere, or they were. Things to look at. They're not prohibitively, there we go, exclusive or cost expensive. So things to look at. Stationary wise, I personally really like the Berkey water filters. There's also one made by Alexapure. They're a freestanding water filter where you can filter up through, I think it's 3 gallons or 3.5 gallons is what we've got. They've got them as small as a gallon, larger up to about 5. Usually takes a couple hours, but they're good for some ridiculous amount. I want to say it's 18,000 gallons per filter. The filters are expensive. They're about $180 a pop, but they're really damn good. And finally, it comes down to storage. You can only store so much water. Water bottles are a pain in the ass to store. There's all types of storage options. You've got food grade buckets. You can take old 2-liter bottles and use those. I've got one up here that's an old, it's a folded carrier bottle that I got multiple years ago that I was going to use during the Mayan apocalypse, whenever everything was going to end. This is how I was going to carry it because it's something I could fill up with at the river and then take it back to where I could purify it and boil it later. So something to look at. But there's a ton of different ways. The other thing I'd recommend is to look at potentially looking at Aqua Bricks. So I started going to Aqua Bricks because they each hold about 3.5 gallons a piece, which is about the easiest weight to carry, as well as it's something that's stackable, easy to move. They're a little bit expensive. They do have one that comes with a water spigot, but they're worth it, at least in my opinion. So that is number 2, which is water storage, and then we're going to go on to number 3, which is medical. So obviously with the coronavirus going around, medical has been the real big hot button issue. So bottom line, if you have pre-existing conditions, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's high blood pressure, diabetes, if it's asthma, things like that, it is incredibly important to have stuff on hand so you don't have to go out in this type of a situation and put yourself at risk. Swear, I don't have the COVID. But you can have your doctors actually apply for a 1 to 2 month prescription that'll actually get forward to you so that you can have it on hand just in case. Other huge things that are important. Simple things. Tylenol, acetaminophen, very important. Just having a bottle lying around or having enough to make sure that you can cover yourself, your family, should you get into a situation where you need to reduce a fever or pain. If you're out doing a lot more activities, odds are, especially if you're like me and have been busted around a few days in your life, you're going to have some residual aches and pains. Things like this is highly important because now I don't have to go out and rely on it. It is not permanent. It's going to be a temporary fix to that problem, and yes, it does run out, but it's good to have that stuff on hand. I am not encouraging you to go and hoard all the damn Tylenol at the store right now. This is stuff to think about for after the COVID-19 crisis has passed. Some of the other things that I would look at is that this stuff usually goes on sale, and a lot of the cold and flu stuff go on sale after cold and flu season. It's not a bad idea to stock up on it then. It's the same stuff that they repackage and resell you later that year. So just food for thought. As you're going outside a lot more, or if you have children, it is highly encouraged that you have stuff for small cuts, scrapes, burns, and abrasions. So things that we always have on hand and a ton of. Antibacterial stuff, Neosporin. Lord knows that it's good stuff to have anyway, but especially if there's a situation where you have to have it post whatever apocalypse, it's good to have on hand because you don't want that small cut to get infected and be the reason that you are either taken out of the fight or taken 6 feet under because of a small cut that could have been treated with some type of antibacterial. This goes as well for having betadine, iodine, Band-Aids, simple things like that. It may not sound like a whole lot, but it could be the difference between living, dying, or getting worse situation-wise. I want to point out here too, you can have isopropyl alcohol as well as hydrogen peroxide. Great for sterilization of tools. Not recommended, depending on your doctor, but 99% of them, from what I've understood, say do not use this on your skin because they can cause problems on your skin. Other things to have: Vicks Vapor Rub, really good for chest stuff. Cough drops, it's nice to have, especially if you catch a cough. And then other things like petroleum jelly. Petroleum jelly has a ton of different uses. It's flammable, it's great for covering up cuts, abrasions, it's good for kind of keeping that moisture in your skin, and you could create your own salves if you want with natural herbs and such as mint or lavender, other types of stuff. Then we kind of go into the herbal stuff. A lot of people don't pay this any heed. Some people are like, oh, I'm going to heal you with crystals or my essential oils. I'm sorry, Karen, your essential oils don't really help. Or do they? Some of them have been shown to have some medicinal properties, but they're not medically endorsed. So things to think about: mint, echinacea. I've got some turmeric here. Great for anti-inflammatory. I've used it for myself. It seems to help as good as some ibuprofen. So just in case you're running out, honey has antibacterial, antiviral properties. And then stuff like sugar has been used to treat wounds for since the Civil War. So things to look at. And now finally, the last part I'm going to cover in medical, but I think is important, is feminine hygiene and family planning. There's not going to be such a wonderful day in the neighborhood as you trying to run to the store to get yourself some pads or a tampon while you're bleeding all over yourself. Not a good situation. How do I know this? Maybe I had to make an emergency run to the store during the COVID-19 crisis. I don't know. But it's not a good sign. I was like, hey, I'm down on my last one. Would you mind? So it's good to have those kind of things that are on your shelves and you're going to need them. I am the father of a couple of girls. Eventually, God, I hope a long time from now, but eventually they're going to have to go through this process. So you can either do it with the feminine hygiene products that they have at the store. You can do it the old natural way, which is, it's cloth, it's diaper pads like they use with the disposable diapers, it's towels, it's whatever you've got on hand. But the most hygienic way is if you're going to do it that route, is something that you can boil. They've also got other stuff like the Diva or Princess cups. I'd never seen this shit before in my life, but you know what? It's pretty cool, and you can boil the crap out of that, and it saves the day quite a bit. So those are some of the things you want to look at for feminine hygiene. And the last one for that is family planning. I foresee, because I am psychic, something along that line, that there might be a few families that are going to have a COVID baby. So I anticipate being locked in the same room. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to hate each other, or you're going to be making that sweet, sweet music. And then 9 months later, you're going to have another child. Incredibly important to look at this stuff beforehand, because you don't want an empty box when it's hot and raring to go and it's the apocalypse and they're relying on you. So the other caveat to that is if you take birth control, it's one of those, the hormone type, the pill, it is one of those things that's very important to kind of judge and understand what may or may happen if you go off the pill. The middle of a bad situation like this is not a great time to start going all ballistic because of your hormone imbalances, because of the chemicals they've been pumping through your body. That's not the person I want to give a gun to. So, just throwing it out there, take it for what it's worth. So, we've already talked about food, water, and medicine. There's 2 more items I'm covering. And this one is going to be a little bit longer, but I'll try and be as brief as I can. First one, so number 4 for this is protection. One of my old former non-commissioned officers said that he doesn't ever believe in doomsday prepping. Why? Because he's going to become a doomsday raider. He has guns, he's going to just take everybody else's shit. Interesting theory. And unless you want to be that person that says, oh no, I'm a target, this could potentially be a situation where it's an issue. Now, most people look at me like I'm crazy when I'm saying this, but all across the United States and the world, prisoners are being released during this crisis. And most of the police forces are limiting their stopping of actual crime. That becomes a serious problem whenever you consider that there's a lot of people who are now on the streets with very little way of providing for themselves. So that means that you could become a target. So I'm going to go over some quick little things, and I'm not going to make too much of this. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer. The first thing is that we're looking at non-lethal first. Don't look like a target. Don't make your house look like it's an easy place to pick. Lock and secure your doors and valuables. It sounds stupid, but there are people who don't do it. And then there's also a whole litany of lethal or non-lethal things like batons, baseball bats, hockey stick, broom, doesn't matter. Anything can be a weapon if you need it to, but that's your non-lethal aspect. Then you've got the lethal aspect. There's a run for whatever reason right now on frickin' tomahawks. I am sorry, you're not Daniel Day-Lewis. This isn't Last of the Mohicans. I don't see you going Ragnar Lodbrok on some dude's behind as he tries to go through your door. It's not gonna happen. A knife, I can understand. Knives are very useful tools. I have a ton of them. I use them for both my time in the service as well as for hunting, fishing, and procuring, but it's a great way to help do for multiple tasks. Knife fighting is a really bad and iffy situation that you don't want to put yourself in if you don't have to. You're way too close to the person that you're trying to stay away from. So that's one. Bow and arrow. Okay, Robin Hood, let's see how good you're going to do. I like it because it gives you a little bit of range, right? That's why they came up with it back in the day, I don't know, several thousand years ago. It's not a reliable weapon for home defense unless you're like, again, Robin Hood or one of that dude on the Avengers whose name I don't know, but it's not really a viable solution, at least for me, unless it is strictly used at providing for yourself in terms of a hunting situation. Now we come down to firearms. So everybody's first inclination was to go out and buy a firearm. Last week alone, there were 25,000 background checks according to the National Background Checks folks. So we're talking 25,000 people thought that, you know what, there's a crisis. Now's a good time to be a first-time gun owner. That's terrifying that we've got all these new people out there. But if you were anti-gun and now see the purpose of owning a gun, welcome to the team. Ask somebody for help. Let us help show you how to do things. Let us teach you. Go to classes. I'm encouraging of that. That being said, it's kind of a caveat. We need to figure out what they're used for. So This is a handgun. It's completely unloaded. It is a 1911. A handgun's main purpose is personal protection and to get you back to your main weapon, which is usually a rifle. Great for home defense, as I've said. It's great for something that you want to wear on your hip. But again, this is not like the end-all, be-all weapon. The second one you can go down is a shotgun. Shotguns are great for home defense, but they're not really great for long range unless you're shooting slugs, which is basically a shotgun rifle. They're great for home defense, but be careful because they're very good at penetrating through walls. Rifles, better for defense, but they're not very good for, depending on the rifle, some of them are not very good for close quarters unless you're like an AR-15, something along that line. Other big thing, this gun doesn't go bang unless it has bullets. For whatever reason, everybody has always used every type of panic situation, i.e. Hillary Clinton might get elected, i.e. the zombie apocalypse, the 2012 scenarios, earthquakes, name it, to buy more ammo. I'm all for this. So, one of the things I'd recommend is if you're going to get a gun, do a little math beforehand and try and buy it before they decide to start scalping on prices. Price gouging is illegal. However, it only seems to be illegal if it's stuff that people want, i.e. hand sanitizer, for whatever reason. Everybody wants that, illegal to price gouge. Ammo going up 100%, not a big deal, nothing to see here. You be the judge in terms of whether or not that is something that's accurate. You can look at common calibers. So for handguns, it's 389 mil, 40, 45, 38, and 357 Magnum. So those are the major handgun brands or handgun ammo selections that are most popular. For shotguns, it's typically 20 gauge and 12 gauge tend to be most popular. And then rifles, it's 5.56, 30-30, your 270s, 308s, and 30-06. Some of them might say, oh, what about my favorite caliber? I don't care about your favorite caliber right now. I'm saying what's most common on the shelves. It's good because ammo commonality in a bad time is great. If I have a box of this, I can share with my buddy and vice versa. However, if you're buying stuff off the shelf, sometimes having a gun that's in an oddball caliber like 257 Roberts or 10 millimeter handgun, something that's off the norm means that ammo availability might be there longer. And then to quote James Wesley Rawls, who's one of the, if you will, the fathers of prepping, ballistic wampum. Bullets are always worth something. So regardless of whether or not it's now or 30 years in the future, bullets are still hold their value. Unlike stocks, unlike anything else, they have always been a constant. There's always a need for somebody to either hunt for food or protect themselves. So that's kind of the quick, cheap, and dirty for the firearms aspect. And again, I'll go into much more detail probably in a later video because, hey, I'm stuck indoors. I'm not allowed to go anywhere, so you're going to see a ton of me. Finally, item number 5, which is comfort items. You're going to be around your family for an extended period of time. There's a reason why I might have this up here. Comfort items. So, books, games, knitting material, crafts, whatever it is that makes you happy, I would highly recommend stocking up on a few of these things and then learning how to do more. During this downtime, or during this time, you're going to have downtime. There's going to be times where it's like, man, there is nothing to do. God forbid the internet streaming service shuts off. Oh no, I can't watch Netflix. I can't binge watch Grey's Anatomy. Whatever will I do? Pick up a book. Well, we don't have books anymore because everybody switched over to these awesome little e-readers. Great to store a shit ton of books on. Really hard to access if the store is down. But you could preload them with a ton of material and all you need to do is get a charge. Some of the other things you might want to look at that are comfort items that I came down with, and I could be wrong, but you can add to it. Any types of electronics, tablets, music, anything that requires accessing a cloud or pulling information off the internet, download that stuff. Have it available. I know it's going to clutter up your phone. I get it. But you know what? You're not always going to have Spotify be able to stream. Sometimes things will go down. And when you're having a really bad day, hearing that one inspirational song really does help get you through the tough times. Just remember that they also require additional things like cables, battery packs, protective cases. So make sure you have ways to charge them. especially if it's something that you're reliant upon. And it's just one of those things, whatever it is that makes you happy. The other thing you can definitely take a look of or take advantage of while you're sitting around and have nothing to do is read some awesome wisdom from elsewhere. I can't tell you how many of books like this that I have lying around my house that I've read parts of or the things that interested me, but I didn't focus on all the rest of it. I'm now going back through all my libraries to figure it out. So I bought these at Borders. If you're older like me, you probably still remember Borders. But I bought that at Borders, I don't know, probably a dozen years ago. And I've read through parts of it, but there's a lot of great information on how to correctly do plumbing, how to fix a fence, how to build snowshoes, how to build beekeeping stuff. I don't know if I'm going to use half of that stuff, but it's cool to know that it's there and we'll learn that task while you have it available. Where else are you going to have your boss saying, you're getting a paycheck, but stay home and we're not charging you any type of leave or vacation for an extended period of time where you can do nothing but self-development? I don't care if that's reading books and doing it like crafts and skills, learning how to do hand sanitation or sanitation in general, learning first aid online, learning how to cook. How many of you poor folks out there have never had to cook or really done anything past microwave dinners? This is an excellent opportunity to learn how to do it. I'm looking at taking classes online in terms of be it math, physics, business, things that interest me that I don't have time for in my daily life. This is a fantastic opportunity to spend time with your families, spend time learning how to do something together and playing and really cherishing and appreciating what you have now and getting everybody on the same board so that you could be there in the future. That about summarizes everything that I've got for the first edition of the top 5 things you should have had prepped for the Corona apocalypse. Again, my name's Ian. If you liked what you saw, please hit the like button, subscribe to me below. If you have any suggestions for things that you'd like me to discuss, again, drop it in the comments section. Other than that, have a wonderful night, take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.